everyone, it's Jess from Meyer Hatchery and welcome to another episode of Meyer Makes. Today we are going to be making a project that celebrates our love for chickens because Valentine's Day is almost here. I don't know about you, but if you like to do projects, you may have a container like this laying around. This is my fabric scrap container and I like to save all of my fabric scraps. So the project that we're making today, you can use up some of those fabric scraps that you may have laying around. The supplies you need to make our chickens are, you're going to need your fabric scraps, and you want them to be about 5 inches by 5 inches on your fabric scraps, and you want to have a couple different colors. You're going to need to make a pattern. So our chicken is going to be in the shape of a heart. So you want to make your own pattern. So here's what my heart looks like. And it ended up being about 5 inches by 5 inches. You can make however big heart you would like for your chicken. I find that this size worked just perfect for me. You're also going to need to do some designing of a comb. So I made a comb here. And I drew this all on cardstock so I can save this after I'm done with my project. You're also going to need a beak. So just a triangle that's about 1 inch that's going to go right there. You can see on my template, I've also marked, we're going to be doing some hand sewing after our project is all together. So I've marked kind of where my eye is and where a wing would be as well. You're also going to need some fiberfill for filling your chickens. You're going to need some good quality scissors. So here's my scissors I really like to use. You're going to need a chopstick or something similar for turning your project. So I have my trusty sewing stick here. You're also going to need some embroidery floss. So I've got my black embroidery floss and some needles to help me. I've got some pins also to help me hold everything into place. And for marking my template onto my fabric, I like to use a pen like this right here. This is an air and water soluble pen. I like to use the purple end here because I could trace my pattern nice and easy and the ink disappears in about 10 minutes. It's really cool. This end here you can use too. This is water soluble, but you'll have to use water to get that line off. So now that we've got all of our supplies together, let me show you how I trace my pattern onto my fabric. So as I mentioned, I have a lot of scrap fabric that is laying around. And you want to make sure whatever piece you're going to use, you want to give it a good iron. So mine needs to be ironed just a little bit here on that piece. But when you're choosing your pieces, you want them to be right sides together. So you're having 2 5-inch by 5-inch pieces that match up like this one here. And you can adjust that again with the size of your template. But you're going to lay your pieces on top of each other, and you can actually lay them so they are wrong sides together. So it would look like this right here. And then you're going to place your template on top, right in the middle there. Sometimes I'll move it over so I can save some of these scraps here. And we're going to take our pen, and we just are going to trace all the way around our design here. Just like that. We lift it up. There's our heart ready to go, and we can cut this out. You're going to do the same thing with your comb and your beaks. Now you have an option when it comes to your comb and your beak. You can use fabric, and you can do 2 layers and actually stitch these together to make a double thickness on here. If you don't want to do that, you can use just a single layer of whatever color you choose for your beak and your comb fabric. You can also use felt, which you would only need 1 layer of felt, and again you would just trace your design on your felt. Here's what my pieces look like all cut out. So here is all my comb pieces all ready to go, and I'm actually going to stitch mine so I have 2 of each on those. Same with my beaks here. We're just going to give those a really quick stitch on those. And when I'm done making my chickens, again, another really cool thing about this project is you can leave them just single chickens, or I'm going to make a flock. So I'm actually going to be sewing up 5, and I'm going to string them together. So I have a nice cute garland with our chickens. But here is what all of my pieces look like, all cut out. I'm going to have to do some ironing there. Here we go. And there we go. Looks great. So now that we have everything cut out, now we need to think about our wing before we sew everything together. So if you'd like to add a wing to your heart chicken here, you have a couple options. You can go ahead and just sew up your chicken and then hand embroider your wing on after. You can also use your sewing machine in a really tight zigzag stitch, kind of trace a wing design just on one of the pieces here and zigzag stitch, or however you want to stitch a wing on, you could do that as well. Or you don't have to put a wing either. I'm still deciding on mine. I really like this fabric and I'm not sure if it needs a wing or not. We'll see in a few minutes. So you have some options with that. The eye we're definitely going to do after everything is all together. To assemble and sew our chickens, you're going to take your fabric, however you decided on your wing, and you're going to turn it so the right sides are facing. So we have one piece where the right side is facing up, and we're going to place our comb up on one of the corners here at the top. So I still have to stitch this, but I'm just going to show you. We're just going to kind of line that up top there. And you can kind of round this out a little bit depending on the type of comb that you have so it lines up with the top there. And then same thing with our beak here. You're going to just line that up on the edge like so. And then you take your other piece with the wrong side facing up and you're going to place it on top like that. And you're going to stitch all the way around. And I like to leave, you need to leave an opening because we're going to be turning these. So I like to leave my opening down towards the bottom. So I'm going to put my opening down here and I'm going to leave about an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew up all these pieces and we're going to come back together and take a look at how everything looks as we turn everything. All right, so here's what all of my chickens look like, all stitched, and we're going to clean up these edges a little bit, and then we're going to turn them so they are right sides out. So I like to kind of very carefully trim if I've got some extra where like my comb was up here. I'll just trim kind of close. I did do about a 1/4 inch seam allowance on here for my chickens. I found that works kind of the best. And you can also put some little kind of notches here. And when you turn it, it'll help to keep that heart shape on the top there. And now all we're going to do is we're going to turn it so it's right side out. I did make a little change when I went to go sew mine. I decided that I wanted my comb and my beaks to only be one layer. So you're going to notice that. And that's the great thing of projects, right? You can kind of change as you go. Right, easy to turn around. I found having that inch is just enough where I can get my finger in there. Easy to stitch up when we're done. And oh look, our chicken's starting to come alive here. I love this project, it's so fun. Before we go any further, I want to have a little chat about the comb on our chickens here. So one thing I noticed when I was working with this pattern that I made is that if the comb was wide like this, then my comb kind of laid flat on my chicken and I wanted the combs to stand up. So if you want your comb to stand up, you want to reduce this base down to about 1/2 inch and kind of bring it down to a kind of like an opening like this. And I'll show you by cutting this so you can see. Kind of more like along the lines like that. And you could leave a little extra there so you have plenty for sewing. And this is going to make the comb stand up like this, where when it was wide, it kind of lined up along the bump here and didn't stand up as much. Again, it depends on the look that you're going for, but that's a little tip I learned when making the combs on my chickens here. All right, so here's what everybody looks like, all turned right side out, and I've stuffed them with a little bit of this fiberfill that looks like this. How much you fill your chickens depends on how you're going to use your chickens. If you're going to give these to somebody, then you're probably going to want to fill them up a little bit more. My chickens here are going to turn into a decoration, so I'm kind of leaving them not as full, just enough to hold their shape. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close up all these holes by hand stitching. I'm also going to add some eyes, so I'm using my needles and my embroidery thread, and I'm just going to put a little dot or a knot where the eyes are. I think because my fabric is got a lot going on it, I'm not going to add the wings on here. If I had more solid colors, I think I would add a little wing, maybe embroider one on there. But as we mentioned in the beginning, the great thing about this project is you can adjust these however you'd like. So I'm going to go ahead and close everything up, and we're going to take one final look at our project. All right, here's what my flock looks like all completed. I love the way that these came out. I really like my fabric choices and kind of going rustic with my combs and my beaks and the eyes here. Super cute. This would be such a fun project to work together as a family with and give these to people as their Valentines. Great way to use up scrap fabric that you have around. You can hand sew these, you can sew them on the sewing machine, you could turn them into a garland like I've done here. So many possibilities. Hopefully I've given you some inspiration to make your own heart chickens. If you have any questions, be sure to let us know in the comments below. I really like making these so much, I think I'm gonna go make some more. Thank you so much for watching.